What I'm going to be talking about today is the Better Oxford campaign. It's what we've been doing over the last couple of months for building back better in Oxford. So first off, I'm a volunteer from the Build Back Better Green New Deal local hub. It's a national campaign with local hubs applying the principles of a Green New Deal to building back better. And that boils down to climate justice equals social justice equals climate justice, and we're applying that at the local level. So for us, the particular issue that we've been focusing on is congestion in Oxford, and we'll go into why that's important. I'll talk about what's happened so far over the last couple of months, campaigning, listening and talking with the public, and then what's next, proposals for Oxford East. So what's the issue? Congestion in Oxford. All these pictures have been taken in the last week or two, and it shows absolute gridlock in central Oxford. But there is another way. On the left is Brighton, on the right is London. It is possible to cut congestion and redesign spaces for people, which is better for the economy, better for health, better for livability, better for the climate, so many things it's better for. This is a climate issue. This is from this year, June 18th, over 30 degrees within the Arctic Circle. It's happened multiple times. We're in a climate crisis. And we know that surface transport, so cars and other motor vehicles, provide the biggest CO2 output of any industry in the country. So this is a big climate issue that we have to tackle. It's also a public health issue. Now, I find people outside of the medical world don't really, this term public health doesn't really resonate with people, so I prefer this term human health. This affects all of our health as humans. So this picture on the left is illegal levels of air pollution in Oxford East, that's St Clement's, and we know that poor air pollution exacerbates the spread and severity of COVID, as well as heart attacks, cancers, strokes, etc. So there's a big human health element here to focus on. Taking the words of Michael Marmot, there can be no more important task than to reduce health inequalities. And I think health inequalities is perhaps the #1 metric of success of a society. So let's take a look at what that's like in Oxford. This is a map of illness, the burden of illness across Oxford. The darker areas have higher levels of long-term illness. And if we map onto their Oxford East, we can see that there's high levels of health inequality in Oxford East, especially if you compare it to the northwest of Oxford. This is a picture of the COVID deaths in Oxford East, and it's the same thing. It's not a happy picture for Oxford East in regard to health, illness, and COVID deaths. Oxfordshire is one of the most affluent areas of the country, but this hides the astonishing fact that there are 10 wards in Oxfordshire which feature areas which are in the 20% most deprived in England. Of those 10 areas, 6 of them are in Oxford East: Northfield Brook, Rosehill and Iffley, Blackbird Leys, Carfax, Barton and Sandhills, and Littlemore. So public health inequalities is a big issue for Oxford East. So what can we do about it? Actually, sorry, this is the one that really hits home for me. The life expectancy gap for men living in Carfax to the least deprived wards in Oxfordshire is 15 years. There's a 15-year life gap between someone living in Carfax in Oxford East to the most affluent areas of the county. So this is shockingly awful statistics on health inequalities. So what can we do about it? Illness is just the tip of the iceberg, and actually we've got to drill down to the bottom to look at social, community and living environment. So health behaviours, socioeconomic factors, the built environment and healthcare. And that's why we focus on congestion. It stops us living healthily, it stops us travelling healthily, it entrenches inequalities, it is the built environment, and it reduces our access to healthcare. So that's why we're focusing on this issue. So we've been campaigning, listening with people, talking with the public. We as a campaign organisation teamed up with a series of other transport groups. These are the real experts locally. And we put together a pop-up shop, an exhibition where we put forward plans to ask the public, is this any good? And this is some of the stuff we showed them. So top left there is what Broad Street could look like if it was pedestrianised. We've got school streets on the top right, different levels of pedestrianisation, segregated cycle lanes that really make cycling easy, attractive, social. And we asked people, what do you think? So we videoed them. We just went out and chatted to as many people as we could to get as many views as possible. And we tried to get across the spectrum of society. And this is what they said. I'd like to be able to cycle with my children in Oxford without worrying about cars and trucks. The up, down of pavements is so exhausting. If there were no cars and I could ride on the road, it would be wonderful. That's Sarah, a wheelchair user. This Chris here, the guy that founded Pedal and Post, a great delivery company. that uses bicycles. We've just invested 45,000 in new equipment and created 5 new jobs. So we're talking about new job creation. This is where it's happening. By doing this in the long run, we are making the future better for our grandchildren. I work in Oxford. I'd like to see the centre become car free. We have to focus on cycling areas for the Abingdon and Botley roads because they're so busy. From a Deliveroo driver, here, Julie, a mum to be, it's nice to just relax and sit. A business owner on St Michael Street has just been pedestrianised. It's given our business a huge boost and increased business triple-fold. I like cycling because it's less stinky than a car and you get way more fresh air there from a 7-year-old. We also collected lots of written feedback from the public and collated that together to write a report for Oxfordshire County Council. We encourage people to complete a survey about cutting congestion with bus gates, and it saw 7,000 responses, where usually a survey like this would get about 1,000. So that was really, really good public engagement. And there has been tangible progress. So Oxford City Council has done some great work to pedestrianise George Street and also St Michael Street, which has seen a real boost for people coming together, for community, for cutting air pollution, and for local business. So what next? Well, there are some really exciting proposals for Oxford East that have been put in. I just want to focus again on what really matters here. So healthy behaviours, socioeconomic factors, the built environment and healthcare. And this is what's been put forward by the County Council. So it's a bit of a messy map, but basically what it's proposing is to really change the built environment for Oxford East and South Oxford, primarily to help better access to the centre and to the hospitals at East Oxford from South Oxford. So what it's putting forward is healthier travel, that's our healthy behaviours, access to hospitals, that's the healthcare access, reducing inequalities, that's the socioeconomic factors, and it's all being done by changing the built environment. So it is the bottom of our iceberg here for reducing health inequalities. And so the question now is, please get involved. This is a public movement. We want to get as many people involved as possible, whether it's social media is your thing, creating digital content, journalism, talking to people, politics, whether you're well connected with a social justice and climate justice slant. We want to build as big a public movement at the local level as possible to get this done. And if you're interested, then please email us at oxfordgreennewdeal@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at oxbackbetter. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Charlie. Oh, I don't know about you guys, but it's great to hear like so much positivity from both of the speakers we've had so far. I mean, it definitely seems to me like there is a way forward, and I'd love for that to continue when we hear from Anneliese now as well. So,
well, thanks very much indeed for enabling me to be a part of this discussion, and I certainly will combine optimism in terms of what we can achieve, but maybe a little bit of a dose of extreme urgency as well, just to kick off with that, because you know, I don't actually personally use the term climate change anymore, because for a lot of people that makes it sound like some kind of you know, kind of long-term trend. Actually, we've seen, of course, over the last couple of years, including in Oxford, record temperatures. We're now seeing extreme stress on much of our infrastructure. You know, people remember some of the flooding that's occurred across different parts of the country just in the last few weeks. You know, railway lines being washed away. This is not normal. It is a crisis. We need to see very urgent action. I do agree with what the other speakers have said about the fact that this is a time when many policymakers' views perhaps about the potential for that action is starting to change. And I, for one, I'm very, very much enthused and encouraged by that. But we have got to be cognizant of the fact that we are, of course, well behind where we need to be. I mean, we have this net zero commitment set into UK policy of 2050. Even to hit that, we are too far behind, right? So we do need to speed up. So I'm going to talk really quickly about local issues and then national ones. Locally, I very strongly agree with what Charlie set out. You know, I've consistently been a supporter of Connecting Oxford, which is the umbrella term for that system of bus gates. Now, the term bus gate sounds kind of very benign, but actually what it means is that people who want to use their car to get between different bits of Oxford are going to have to take a different route in the future. They are going to potentially have to take a route, in some cases, that's going to take a bit longer. But I think in the city, very effectively, NGOs like Charlie's one, you know, different groups of local residents, councillors and others, they've been working together to set out the case for this change. We need to do it for health reasons, for climate reasons as well. And I personally have been really encouraged by the fact that there's been relatively little pushback on this. Now, you know, there are a handful of cases where, you know, it is going to be difficult for some businesses. I think, you know, the councils are trying to work with them to help them around that. But it's something that we need to do. We need to keep that strong support there. So anything people can do to help with that, you know, whether it's the comments pages of the Oxford Mail or online, or you know, discussions on BBC Oxford, whatever it is, let's make it clear that this is something that people want. I would say that's the case also for other low carbon interventions. Kylie Branch Line only operates for freight. You know, last 3 years I've been saying, please can we get this open to passengers? You know, it's something that should have happened a long, long time ago. If we did that, again, it'd be ticking both the environmental and social justice boxes very clearly. And I agree with what was said about pedestrianisation as well. You know, I remember the days when people jumped up and down and said that Cornmarket couldn't be pedestrianised. We can barely imagine it in its old state, its old polluted state. And I think here, all that we can do, you know, it's really interesting to see that quote from a local business, all that we can do to say this is something that actually helps local businesses, because people are more likely to just nip into a shop, they're more likely to spend time on those genuinely livable streets when they're not worried about their kids being run over, when they're not worried that they're going to be hit by a car or breathing in pollution constantly. So let's keep up the pressure. Let's try and get it going across Oxfordshire as well, because it needs to happen right across the county, but of course we need it across the country too. So really quickly, I'm very conscious of time here, but just on a few of the national issues, particularly from my role as Shadow Chancellor, you know, I really strongly agree with what Cameron was saying about employment and green jobs and environmentally friendly jobs. I think his report and his group's report was really helpful in that regard. I suppose this relates to some of the challenges around this agenda. You know, I think very often people think that a green job, for example, would not be something for them. You know, they think it's something for other people. Actually, there are so many different areas where I would argue, personally, the UK is lagging behind, where there's a lot of employment potential, where we can quite quickly get people back into work, you know, particularly those who are becoming unemployed, which is good for them and it's good for those who then benefit from those services. I mean, obviously around insulation, energy efficiency, biodiversity protection, etc. My party's been strongly focusing for support for employment in those areas. We've seen some moves in that direction with the Green Jobs Fund in the UK, but really quite relatively limited. We'd like to see much more action in that area. Secondly, because we're so far behind the net zero target, just having that target on its own clearly isn't driving the change that's needed across policy. So I said to the Chancellor, and I'll continue to say this, that every investment decision that's taken must be contributing to that net zero goal. So we need to make that explicit within all of those policy areas. We need them to be properly tested, and we need that to be actually published, needs to be hardwired into Treasury decision making. We then also, of course, need to have just a bigger quantum of investment in those critical technologies that are important for the green transition. If you bundle together all of the environmentally friendly measures in the investment package that was first presented by the Prime Minister just before the summer break, they only amount to just about what Germany's spending just on hydrogen. So much, much smaller commitment. Now that's bad for the environment. It's also bad for jobs in our country. It's bad for our economic future. So we need to have that focus. We need to, of course, protect biodiversity as well. May end up talking about the agriculture bill potentially. You know, real lack of clarity there about what's going on. We've got a real tragedy around biodiversity, soil quality, etc., as well as around the climate. But then finally, we also do need to have more intervention on a number of areas where we just don't have that coordination yet. You know, we've seen a lot of change, real mess around a number of renewable technologies, onshore wind, you know, where we've had a hostile environment, charging infrastructure for electric vehicles, you know, still a whole plethora of different approaches. We do actually need to have a grip taken off these issues by central government. So yeah, I want to stop there, and already feel like I've gone on too long, sorry, but looking forward to the questions. I would say for any of my constituents also on the call, if there's anything you don't have the chance to ask now or that you want to raise with me, please always get in contact with me. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much, Anneliese.